Meadow, the woman sighed and looked down at her notebook. Her pencil had fallen from her fingers as she dozed, without a word being written. It was strange. She had a distinct memory of scribbling something down, but it must have been part of a dream. Climbing to her feet, she turned towards the gate and, conscious of a dark cloud drifting across the sun, she felt an apprehensive shiver. It was time to go home. 1. It all started with a knock on the door. Cadi Jones threw down her pen with an exclamation of annoyance and, pushing back her chair, she stood up. Her next-door neighbour, Sally Price, was standing on the doorstep, clutching a handful of letters. She held them out.
"I'm just coming back from work and I met Gethin at the gate. He's later than ever today."
Gethin was their postman. "Someone's off sick, so he's covering 2 rounds." Cadi was already turning away.
"San Elen cottage."
Sally read the address off the top of the envelope out loud. "Yes, that's my address, you know it is." Cadi stepped back, wanting to close the door, wanting to go back to her desk, but acknowledging reluctantly that it wasn't going to happen. Not yet. Sally was already in the room.
"Do you have the deeds, Cadi?"
"The deeds?"
"The land registry deeds of your house. Sorry, it just occurred to me."
Belatedly, Sally took stock of the untidy room, the scattered papers on the table, the piles of books on the old bureau, more books and files on the floor. The desk lamp was on.
"I'm sorry, were you in full flow?"
Of course she was. "What on earth do you want to know about my deeds for?" Bewildered, Cadi walked over to the round table that stood in the centre of the room and pulled out a chair for her visitor, then sat down opposite her. It was too late to go on working now anyway. Her thought process had been interrupted, the fluent flow of words dammed. The 2 women were complete contrasts in every way. Cadi was tall with wild, prematurely grey hair and vivid green eyes. Stunningly beautiful eyes, her ex-husband David always said. But the woman who went with them was far too complicated, too much of a dreamer for him to handle. Sally, on the other hand, was short, whip-thin, with dark, straight hair neatly bobbed and steady brown eyes, and sensible with it. She fixed Cadi with what Cadi always thought of as her headmistress look. One glance from her at the children in her primary school probably ensured instant silence. Cadi was silent now as Sally went on.
"It's this house. It might be our only hope. David did give you the deeds."
Her divorce, 10 years before, had proceeded inevitably and completely amicably, with David keeping their London flat and Cadi the cottage. The flat was worth probably 20 times as much as the cottage, so he had thrown in a lump sum as well, to balance things out a bit and tide you over. She had been living off the lump sum ever since, and she hated London anyway. Win-win. They were still close friends.
"To be honest, I have no idea about the deeds."
Cadi stood up restlessly. "I expect the solicitor has them."
"Why on earth do you want to know?" "I was wondering if by some wonderful chance you owned Camp Meadow."
There was a long pause. Camp Meadow lay beyond their small terrace of houses at the end of the village, 10 acres or so of flower-studded grass, bordered by a line of ancient willows, and beyond them, a rocky brook. It ran along the far side of the meadow and down the shallow hillside, following a tributary that bisected the village near the church, driving the ancient mill wheel from which the village took its name, Elen, before turning sharply southwest and winding for miles towards the distant Severn estuary. Beyond the meadow rose a steep, overgrown hillside topped by an Iron Age hill fort. "I'm pretty sure I would know if I did." "Why?" "Because someone has applied for planning permission to build an estate of new houses on it." There was a shocked silence as Cadi registered what she had said. "They can't!" Her anguished cry, when it came, was heartfelt. Too shocked to move, Cadi stood immobile, staring down at her friend. "So you didn't know? Thank God. Everyone in the village thinks it's you." "Of course it isn't me. How could anyone believe that for a single second?" Cadi threw herself back into her chair. "I always thought it belonged to Di Prosser," she said at last. "It must be his, surely."